What that sound literally makes me want to puke. So gross.
So, you told me the other day that you...
Wait, are you leaving? That is the beginning of the podcast?
Yeah, you told me
It's
the other day
disgusting.
that you had a friend in school who had like this gag reflex,
Yeah.
and every time you would do like... she started gagging.
Yeah.
And you found that it's funny and you teased her
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
It's the
All
same
the
what I'm
time.
doing.
Not because your sound there is not a gag. It's like a gross swallow sound that's like, I don't know. It's real gross. Like, it's real gross. It doesn't sound as gross in the
That's true.
headphones. It's pretty disgusting.
We're back, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Hello, I'm Listening with
Yes, indeed.
your main host, Woifi.
Danny. Damn it, I almost said Woifi. Danny.
Because
is your main host.
you know what the deal is. So last week, I just quickly, so people don't get offended or upset with us. but
Here's our excuse for this week why we missed an
No.
episode last
we're
week.
not doing that anymore. People know that we're building.
inconsistent.
We're having a lot of shit going
Yeah,
on,
no, totally.
and I got one of my last
Wisdom teeth.
one is still in there, but my second to last wisdom tooth wisdom tooth removed, and I couldn't really talk.
Yeah. And your face was all swollen and
Yeah,
yeah.
I needed urgent care. But
No,
we're back.
He would like sit on the couch and I would be in the kitchen and he's just like, the couch was literally around the corner. And he's like, Danielle, yeah. Did you get me applesauce? Yes. Can you bring it to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was hurt.
Mhm.
So we are almost out of the basement. Almost, like super
Almost.
close. We're
Couple weeks out, I think.
finishing up the walls upstairs right now.
Yep.
Then they need to be painted,
Yep.
and then we can put in the floor and
And then we can sleep upstairs.
move upstairs. But
I mean,
have to say,
we need electricity up there first. But
yeah, that's like
it would be
not
nice.
even a day of work.
Yeah.
But you know that sleeping in here right now in that climate
Yeah.
is way more comfortable than it was in summertime.
Really?
Yeah, simply because the Luftfeuchtigkeit, what is it?
The moisture
The-
in the air.
Yeah,
The humidity.
humidity is not a problem right now. And
Mhm. That's true.
and since we are in here and the walls are technically a little, concealed with the black curtains and stuff, the heat or the warmth is not going out as fast.
That's true.
So it kind of stays warmish in here, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that it's a little bit cool because even in the summertime, because of the humidity, normally in the summertime, it's really cool down here. But when
Yeah.
we're living down here,
Yeah.
it's definitely different. And I would be warm when I was
Yeah.
sleeping, which
Yeah.
was not like hot and sweating, but just warm, like
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And now
No.
it's actually really comfortable.
It's nice. So I kind of
It's cold right when you go to sleep. That's
Yeah.
not
But
super
I
pleasant.
don't mind sleeping down here right now.
I don't either, actually.
So, yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm not really looking forward to being upstairs because I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
We've been sleeping down here since April,
Yeah.
like mid-April.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, like, since late August, I really got used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because until then, I was really bothered by it, but now I don't mind
Really?
it anymore.
Oh, I
Yeah.
forced myself to get used to it quickly because...
But I think it's also because of the sun. In the summertime, it's so nice and so cozy upstairs, and summer, and you want to see the sun and stuff.
Yeah.
And the sun is not out anymore, you know, or not as
But
long.
it's not like we hang out down here unless it's
Nah,
nighttime.
sure, but right now, you know, when you get up, there's no sun.
Yeah.
When you go down here at night, there is no sun.
Yeah.
So that alone makes it much easier to live down here, I think. But let's get into the actual episode because I don't want to waste my night doing that.
That's a weird thing to say. You're going to make our listeners think that we don't enjoy doing this.
No, we do. So we started the Netflix show Dahmer this week. This week? Last week?
Last week.
Last week. And
or on the weekend. Something. I don't know.
Yeah. And if you don't know what it is, maybe just give a quick little...
I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer is a notorious, I mean, he died, but is a notorious serial killer.
I would say was.
Yeah.
He died, so
You
he
sure
was.
I just said he died.
Yeah.
But in Milwaukee area, so where I'm from, basically, from the 70s to the 90s.
But he started killing in the 80s.
His first
in the
was
80s?
in the 70s.
No, 80s.
I think it was late 70s.
No. It was
Okay.
81.
Okay.
Yeah. But he killed like 15 or 16
17.
people. 17. And
Was also cannibal and...
he was gay. He ventured into cannibalism and did a lot of horrifying and gruesome shit.
Yeah.
There has been a movie with Jeremy Renner from 2002. There has been a lot of...
There's been a lot of things.
Documentaries, books, podcasts surrounding not only him, but other serial killers. And, I mean, let's be honest, the whole, like, what is it called? True crime podcast stuff and documentaries and shit. Like, they have been on a high for...
I mean, years
now.
Years.
And you can make good money with doing something like that if it's well done. And Netflix obviously knows that and already ventured into the whole thing. I mean, there are tons of true crime stuff on there.
That's the majority of what I watch on Netflix.
Yeah, but the new show is basically I mean, it's not a documentary, but it's like biopic.
It's a biopic, kind
It's
of.
a biopic, kind of, yeah. I mean, obviously with some slight changes to the truth, but
I don't even know if I would call it a biopic. It's very much like what is the one, Night Stalker, where
I haven't seen that one.
It's really good. But it's a reenactment. So it's a docu-series, but it's a reenact. Like, it's not your typical documentary, but it's about the person and it's acted out. So I don't know that I would call it a biopic, though.
No, but there are a lot of scenes that are acted out that are one-to-one. You can find them on YouTube or wherever. And it's very realistic.
One-to-one how he describes them. You can't find that.
No. For example, some of we haven't been there yet, but some of the
interrogations probably.
Interrogations and also the court scenes and stuff are on YouTube, and you can find them, and there have been like some side-to-side comparison. So the show is, I would say, 99% accurate. And Ryan Murphy.
I guess a lot of it is because they delve a lot into his childhood, and at least where we are right now in the beginning of the series, and just like his growing up and how that affected him as a person. But I guess a lot of that is a combination of stories that he told.
Apparently, like, you can find a lot of interviews with his parents, and they basically say exactly what we see in the series. So it's based on at least true statements.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It can't be like 1,000% accurate, obviously. But
obviously,
you know, there's stories from the parents, there's stories from maybe siblings, there's stories from people who knew him, from him himself. You know, it's a combination.
So that is basically a show that's is surrounded by a lot of controversy, and we kind of want to talk about it because it's, I think, an interesting topic. So I think it all started when this show came out, or shortly before the show came out, because they didn't really advertise it.
5 days before it was released, it was the first advertisement for the show.
So they released it like this, and they didn't really announce it way sooner. You could obviously find it on IMDb and stuff, but yeah. So Ryan Murphy directed, I think, or part of it, and wrote and produced, showrun the whole thing.
I think so far every episode's been directed by somebody else.
Yeah, I think so too. Ryan Murphy is the guy behind American Horror Story, American Crime Story. He did, what was the one show with the gay people in the 90s? Pose.
Pose. He did Pose?
Yeah, he did
Pose. I didn't know
Pose.
he did Pose. Pose is great.
So he's an amazing showrunner and a very cool, creative person. And the main, how would you say, the controversy about the show is that, and that's where I partly agree, or mostly agree, is that it kind of exploits his character again. It has been already, and it kind of, at least to the extent where we are now, I think we're at the 5th episode, so not that far in. It's more about him, and it's not really about the victims, and it's...
But I think that turns, from what I've read, it becomes more about the victims in the second half.
Sure, but from what we have seen so far, it's not. And obviously, with shows like that, where you have a bad person playing the main guy, you have to at least make him not likable, but sympathetic a little bit, or at least... I wouldn't say relatable, because a person like that can't be relatable.
You have to be able to empathize with the character a little bit.
A little bit. So there's this fine line of, oh, I kind of understand where he comes from. Something like that. Something to the extent like that. And obviously when the show is childhood, you're not thinking, oh, this child is the most evil thing ever because it's a child. Yeah. But it's a very fine line. And so people don't really like that this character again gets exploited for money, obviously, because he brings a lot of people to Netflix and brings them a lot of money. And the victims, at least so far, are not really the main thing about it. It's not about the victims so far. It's more about him. Yeah. It's more about his story. It's more about his motivation, his life.
I see, and I can sympathize with that viewpoint, absolutely. But I also, so this is what I was saying as we were watching it, you know, I have this like conflict with myself when I'm watching it, because I love, I'm fascinated by serial killers. Like, I'm fascinated by the psychology of their brains and what led them to that life that they led, you know. But you know, when you hear about, I don't think it's wrong to empathize or feel bad for how somebody was brought up. If somebody had a fucking horrible childhood,
obviously, sure,
it doesn't. It's hard to phrase it.
But that's,
you can still feel bad that a human being had such a horrible childhood and was surrounded by people who didn't give a shit about him.
Sure.
And I think you can feel bad for that, but it obviously doesn't excuse the things that he did.
But I think,
and it doesn't make them any more understandable.
But I think that is a big problem of the show, because it does all of it, you know? It doesn't show just the childhood. For example, we watched a movie a couple of years ago called My Friend Dahmer. And it's basically about Jeffrey Dahmer, who's still in high school and, you know, already knows that there's something wrong with him. He has these tendencies and all those thoughts and weird fetishes, I would even say, where he dissects roadkill and just, you know. And the movie ends with picking up the hitchhiker who will become his first victim. And that movie was very good, in the sense that it portrayed a, obviously also fictionalized. It's not 100% accurate, but it made a better job, I would say, in terms of going this fine line of, oh, I feel a little bit bad for this person because it's not his fault that he is like that. And obviously he would need help, but he can't get it for some reason.
That's not to say it's not his fault that he did the things that he did, because
no,
it is 1,000%. But it's not his fault that his parents were shit. It's not his fault that maybe there's something seriously wrong with him in his brain. I mean, there has to be that, was never caught or never looked at.
With shows like that or movies like that, I named the Hitler movie Der Untergang in like a comment or like a text with your dad, where people who are portrayed like real people who did horrible things. It's always, again, this fine line of, okay, how do you make it interesting to the viewer so he doesn't they don't turn off the TV right away, because you obviously want them to watch. You want to tell the story and want to portray the person, but at the same time not make it like what is the word, for the victims and families of the victims, like to play disrespectful. That's the word. Like, for example,
that's hard though.
It is.
I don't even know, honestly, that it's possible, because
probably not.
Think about every true crime thing that comes out. Even Night Stalker. Sure, in Nights, you didn't watch it, but in Night Stalker, you hated his character the entire time. So there was never a redeeming quality about him. There was never something where you're like, oh, I feel kind of bad for him. Never. So I think in that sense they did a good job, but it's still profiting off of, it didn't focus on the victims either. It focused on what he did, and the cops trying to catch him and never being able to, and focus more on like his romantic life and the conflict that she had with him. And I don't think, even the docuseries, the one that they made fun of on Sunny. What is it called?
So Making a Murderer.
Even that. A friend of mine knows the family of the woman who died. And they were outraged when it came out. And there were protests, and there were, their whole community.
I remember.
I think that's going to be the case in every series, every movie, everything that comes out about something like that.
What I said today, and I think that's something that would at least play down or help a lot of people with feeling about the whole thing, how they feel, whatever, if you're related to someone or if you are even a family member of the victims. Like, if proceeds of the show would go towards that, would help somehow those people. Because then you basically, or if
the proceeds would go towards like mental health in some way,
whatever, because then basically what happens is you use that character for something good. You use this horrific story that honestly should be told, because it's also a cautionary tale. And it's not only about his murdering, it's about policemen looking the other way, about racism, it's about homophobia, it's about a lot of different things which led to him killing more people.
A lot of things that easily could have
been avoided. Yeah.
If the police had done their job correctly, if,
just an example. This one boy, he drilled a hole in his head.
He was 14.
He was trying to lobotomize him. I listened to an interview today, and what he did, he tried to drill a hole into their holes and then pour acid in there to lobotomize them. They obviously all died. So he drilled a hole in his head, and the boy somehow woke up and tried to run away.
Yeah.
And what happened is that he was able to get to the street, but the police came, and
He couldn't speak.
Dahmer basically came back and said, "Oh, he's drunk. He's my boyfriend.
Yeah,
I have
he's
pictures."
19.
And he played this gay card, and the policemen were like, "Okay, fine, that's it."
They even like brought the kid back up to his apartment. Like, that's how fucked.
Yeah.
They brought him back up. They asked
like
if they could
kid.
look around, but because, you know, it was the 90s and AIDS was...
80, it was 80s.
No, it was 90s at that point.
Oh, was it?
That
oh,
was
yeah. Yeah,
right
it
before
was
he got
90s.
caught.
Yeah.
But, you know, he told the officers that he was gay. This is his boyfriend. The cops didn't really want to touch anything in his apartment. They didn't really want to look around because they were afraid. They didn't want to catch being gay.
Yeah.
They didn't
Also,
want to catch AIDS. They didn't want to...
He's a white guy. He's a white male.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were so many factors about the whole thing. It's super sketchy. And
also
they
the
just walked
neighbor.
away.
I mean, think about his neighbor who lived next to him all those years.
She heard all that shit.
She reported so many times to the police. She called the police so many times.
Yeah.
And they never really gave a shit. They never took her seriously.
Yeah. So, I don't know. The thing is, I really like the show in the sense that it tells a interesting story, and at least for some people who might not know the story as well, obviously you know it because you came from the town and it's probably been told around in school or whatever.
I also listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, sure. But and again, the whole story has been exploited, has been shown in movies, and I've never seen the the Dahmer movie from 2003 with Jeremy Renner, and apparently it's horrific. It's apparently good, but horrifying. And the thing is, you know, history is there to learn from and to maybe not repeat certain things, and that goes along, for example, with the Second World War, the killing of thousands of millions of Jews, or Jewish people. Jews, that's not what you say, right?
I think it's still politically correct to say Jews.
Okay. So, you know, the Holocaust is something that should be remembered, and you should watch movies that show that in a realistic way, because that's how we learn. Yeah. That's how we keep remind ourselves, okay, this happened, and we should never let that happen again.
Granted, to be fair, with serial killers and all of that, it's obviously more of a, I would almost call it a fetish, but not in like a sexual way.
No,
because
obviously.
People are, I mean, I'm included in that. I'm obsessed with stuff like that. I find it riveting. I find it scary. I find it creepy. I'm fascinated by it. I could watch it.
I usually don't like that stuff. I really don't like that stuff. But I think there's also at least to a degree, a learning thing there. And for especially this story, it shows that a white male with good lying capabilities was able to fool the police for years and killed so many people. Yeah. And they caught him almost so many times where you think like, okay, those policemen are blind, but it was just the time. It was just again, him lying so well.
Because it shows that shit has not changed that much.
Again, and exactly. I think that's exactly.
It's pretty eye-opening if you think about it, like how little things have changed.
Yeah.
Or how they changed and then gone backwards.
Yeah. But I have to say, because I typically don't watch true crime stuff because, you know, everything, like life in itself is so shitty sometimes, and there are a lot of horrible things happening, like the war right now in the Ukraine and stuff like that, where I don't want to watch more stuff that is real or was real at some point, because that actually really depresses me. So I'm more a fan of movies that are based on a serial killer, for example. And I mean, one of the most famous one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Ed Gein was the serial killer who the movie is based on.
Or Seven.
Seven.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I personally like things like that more because first of all, there's this creative or artistic thing in because they can basically do whatever they want to do and just reference the character at least a little bit. And it's not about a real person who lived, and you never run into the problem of, oh, I don't want to make that person likable, or I don't want to disrespect any living family members of victims and stuff like that. So I'm more a fan of that stuff.
See, I totally understand where the families are coming from 1,000%, because I would probably feel the same way if I were in their shoes.
Everybody would.
But that's exactly the point. I feel like you also have to take into account this quote woke culture that we're in. We talked about it with the She-Hulk thing.
Yeah.
And everybody's pissed about everything. And you know, how many fucking movies have come out about Dahmer? How many thousands of podcasts? How many books? How many, you know, there.
But that's exactly what
it's
they're
not
saying.
like it's the first time it's happened,
No.
and it won't be the last. It just won't be. And, you know, they're, especially with such a notorious name, that name is never going to die. And it's unfortunate because honestly, the name deserves to die. The name should, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't deserve the fame that he has, but it's a reality that it's unavoidable. If you commit crimes like that are so insane and you get away with it for so long, that's never gonna not be remembered. It's just it's part of history. But it's the same with every serial killer. There are so many, like Ed Gein, like, you know, there's so many that have that same thing. And I feel like other things in the past have not gotten as much backlash as this. Like Night Stalker didn't get backlash from what I don't know. And that wasn't about the victims.
Not as big, obviously.
But that's the thing. It shouldn't matter. It's the same. It's still, people still died. Those are still family members of.
The biggest problem, and again, I'm coming back to and that's what the victims or the family of the victims say, is that they feel exploited by their name and by things that a family member, a family died by a person that should not be remembered.
I understand. I totally get that.
He should not be in our pop culture right now. But he is. So, and again, coming back to, okay, what could we do good with that? And the simplest thing is to take that money or part of that money and put it in something good. Because then at least you use his name, his legacy or fame or whatever you want to call it in for something good.
No, totally. I agree.
And you maybe can at least do, not make his things undone. Obviously not, but at least maybe help people, help communities, help the families, whatever. Yeah.
No, totally. No, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm very fascinated by the show because I love Ryan Murphy, and Evan Peters plays Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's a great cast through and through. And I have to say, it's, again, I don't like things like that, and it's very hard to watch for me.
I mean, it's hard to watch for me, and I watch shit like that a lot.
Yeah, because it's all true. You can listen to interviews where he tells exactly what you see. You can read Wikipedia articles, news articles, newspaper articles, everything, and you see everything they wrote about. And it's very disturbing.
Ryan Murphy is just the master of disturbing content.
Yeah.
And
even though
it feels very tense, like the whole thing feels like, even I'm like, okay, one episode and I can't anymore. Like, we need to turn it off.
If you think about the other stuff he did, like I would say American Crime Story comes close to what that is in terms of realistic retelling something.
Yeah. I mean, look at the first season of American Horror Story.
Yeah, but it's a ghost story, you know.
Sure, but still very disturbing and tense.
It is, but since it's fiction and it's ghost story, doesn't come even close to that.
Sure.
But he does a very good job, and I think the second season, was with, what was the second season of American Crime Story?
Versace.
The Versace story. I think that movie, that show alone was very, not hard to watch, but very disturbing. The whole, like the character, the killer.
Yeah.
And he does a very good job of portraying those conflicted, very disturbing characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the main reasons why the show is so hard, because obviously Evan Peters brings it all to the table, but the whole writing, the directing, it's so fucking well done. And just having the thought in your head the whole time, oh, this happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago, makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Like way worse. Yeah. I don't know. Do we recommend the show?
The thing is, I recommend the show to people who enjoy true crime and anything scary, quite honestly, because it is scary.
It is scary.
Even if you don't know the story, even if it wouldn't be true, it's fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It is a terrifying story. So I recommend it just for that alone. But I also think it's important to note that because it's real, it definitely is hard to watch. It's not, even for me, it's not easy to watch.
Yeah.
Like it's weird because I like, it's even weird to say you enjoy watching it, you know? It gets
The thing is, I don't enjoy watching it, but I find it so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know much about the character. And I already said, apparently the 6th episode is the best, and I really contemplating stopping after the 6th one. Because it's hard to watch for me.
It is hard to watch.
And the thing is, I want to watch something that I'm enjoying and I'm entertained by. And I'm very entertained by horror movies. But
me too.
Things like that don't entertain me at all. They make me feel bad. They make me feel depressed, anxious. I don't like it.
I mean, then he's doing his job.
No, obviously. But I think that also a main reason why the controversy is so big, because it's polarizing. It is very polarizing. And that, give it credit, because it's so fucking well done.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if you watch it, I recommend it's not a binge thing. You watch one episode and then watch something happy and then leave it for the day. Yeah.
Roger?
That's it.
We might have something very fun planned for next week. Just a little tease. But if you want to keep up with us, you should follow us on Instagram. And you can see if,
which we never really post to.
No, our Instagram, our personal ones.
Oh, I mean, even that we don't. I mean, I don't really post to,
but you can at least see what we're up to, and if we don't post, post a new episode, then you know why, and how. Mm-hmm. And you can talk with us there. You can ask us questions. You can, tell us if we should talk about something else, and please subscribe. And share the podcast if you want to, and obviously rate the podcast if possible on Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can rate it with stars. Please do so.
And no one has done this yet, and it makes me very sad.
Oh, you can send in a message.
You can send us a voice message on Anchor.
Yeah.
We'll link it in the description, but you can send us a voice message, and we can play it on the podcast if you have a question or just a comment or complaint or concern or whatever.
We promise whatever it is, we will play it.
We will play it unless it's...
No, we'll play it.
It's hard to say you promise, because if it's like really
I can censor it. I can still censor it, but we'll play it. We'll play it.
But we'll respond and you'll be on the podcast. Yeah. So, great.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Watch out for deer.